Hyun-Woo Kang owned Chicago. The South Korean immigrant had built an empire from nothing: real estate, construction, entertainment venues that glittered along the magnificent mile. On paper, everything was legitimate. Beneath the surface, his Jopok connections made him untouchable. Politicians called him for favors. Rival organizations knew better than to test him. His penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. But on Christmas Eve, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city's twinkling lights, Hyun-Woo sat alone in the dark. No family dinners awaited him. His mother had passed 3 years ago in Seoul. He'd been too deep in a territory war to attend the funeral. His younger sister refused his calls, disgusted by what he'd become. The women who warmed his bed never stayed past morning, and his associates feared him too much for friendship. 38 years old. Wealthier than he'd ever dreamed possible when he'd arrived in America, with $200 and burning ambition. Master of everything he surveyed, except the gnawing emptiness that no amount of soju could fill. He didn't know that in a cramped apartment 8 miles south, a 7-year-old girl was about to change everything. The Italian restaurant on West Randolph was one of Hyun-Woo's legitimate businesses. High-end, exclusive, the kind of place where reservations required 6 weeks' notice. He visited monthly to review the books, preferring the dinner rush when he could observe operations unnoticed from the private corner booth. Tonight, December 23rd, the place buzzed with holiday energy. Couples celebrated early. Families laughed over expensive wine. Hyun-Woo nursed his second whiskey, watching the controlled chaos with the detachment of a man who owned the stage, but never performed on it. That's when he noticed her. The waitress moved through the dining room with practiced efficiency, balancing 3 plates despite obvious exhaustion. She was beautiful, rich brown skin, natural hair pulled back in a neat puff, warm eyes that smiled even when her mouth didn't. But it was the weariness in her shoulders that caught his attention. The way she glanced at her phone between tables, anxiety flickering across her features. Naomi Parker. He'd seen her name on the employee roster, but never paid attention. Just another face in the machine that generated his wealth. She approached his booth with professional courtesy. "Good evening, Mr. Kang. Can I get you anything else?" Her voice was smooth, melodic. Chicago accent softened by something gentler. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe just who she was. "I'm fine." His own accent colored the words, 17 years in America unable to completely erase Seoul from his tongue. She nodded, turning to leave, but her phone buzzed. Hyun-Woo watched her face transform, worry sharpening into fear. Her fingers trembled as she read the message. Is something wrong? The question surprised him. He didn't involve himself in employees' personal lives. Naomi's head snapped up, professional mask sliding back into place. "No, sir. I apologize. Excuse me." She hurried toward the kitchen, but not before Hyun-Woo saw her swipe at her eyes. He should have let it go. Should have finished his drink and returned to his empty penthouse. Instead, he found himself following, catching the tail end of her hushed phone conversation in the staff corridor. "I know, baby. I know you don't feel good." Her voice cracked. "Mama's gonna come home soon as her shift ends, okay? Mrs. Chen is there. Use your inhaler if you need it. I know it's almost empty. I'll figure it out. I love you so much." When she ended the call, her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Hyun-Woo cleared his throat. Naomi spun around, mortification flooding her face. "Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry. This won't affect my work, I promise." "Your daughter is sick." It wasn't a question. Naomi's jaw tightened. "She has asthma. It's under control. But her inhaler is empty." "I said it's under control." Pride sharpened her tone, despite the tears still wet on her cheeks. Hyun-Woo studied her. Most people couldn't hold his gaze for more than seconds. She met his eyes directly, chin lifted in defiance, even as she trembled, refusing to bend, even when breaking. Something shifted in his chest. "How much does the medication cost?" "I don't need your charity." The words came out harsh. "I didn't offer charity, I asked a question." Naomi's breath hitched. For a moment, he thought she'd tell him to go to hell. Then her shoulders sagged, defeat winning over pride. $300, insurance doesn't cover it. I get paid Friday, but I already spent this check on rent and her Christmas presents and—" She stopped, visibly pulling herself together. "I shouldn't be telling you this. I need to get back to work." $300. He'd spent that on the watch currently on his wrist without blinking. It was nothing. Less than nothing. To her, it was everything. "Take tomorrow off," he said quietly. "Paid. Get your daughter's medication." Naomi's eyes widened. "What? No, I can't. Christmas Eve is our biggest night. You need all the servers. I own the restaurant. I decide what I need. Hyunwoo pulled out his wallet, extracting crisp hundreds, 5 of them, for the medication and whatever else she requires. Mr. Kang, I can't take your money. You can, you will. He pressed the bills into her hand, closing her fingers around them. For your daughter, not for you. Her chin trembled. Why? Good question. Hyunwoo didn't have an answer that made sense. Because she needs it. I'll pay you back every penny. I don't care how long it takes. No. His tone left no room for argument. Take care of your child. That's payment enough. Naomi stared at the money, then at him, confusion and gratitude warring in her expression. Thank you, she whispered. I don't... Thank you. She left quickly, probably afraid he'd change his mind. Hyunwoo returned to his booth, but the whiskey tasted different now. Less bitter. He told himself it was a momentary impulse. Tomorrow he'd forget the waitress and her sick daughter, return to his regularly scheduled isolation. But that night, alone in his penthouse, he kept seeing Naomi's face, the fierce love in her eyes when she spoke to her child, the way poverty couldn't crush her dignity. His phone rang. His second-in-command, Dae-jung. Boss, the shipment's ready. You want to review before... Tomorrow, Hyunwoo interrupted. It's late. You never postpone business. Suspicion crept into Dae-jung's voice. Tomorrow, he repeated and hung up. Christmas Eve. He'd spend it like every other day. Alone. Working. Pretending the emptiness didn't exist. That was the plan. The next afternoon, Hyunwoo found himself driving south instead of north, away from his penthouse, toward neighborhoods where his Aston Martin drew stares. He told himself he was checking on another property, inspecting assets. He was lying. The pharmacy on 63rd Street was small, crowded with last-minute shoppers. Hyunwoo stood out. Expensive coat, designer shoes, the kind of presence that made people move aside instinctively. He almost left. Then he saw her. Naomi stood at the counter, Zuri tucked against her side. The little girl wheezed softly, her breathing labored. She wore a coat too thin for Chicago winter, but her eyes sparkled as she clutched a small, stuffed reindeer. Here you go, Miss Parker. The pharmacist handed over a paper bag. That should last 3 months. Thank you so much. Naomi's relief was palpable. Zuri tugged her mother's sleeve. Mama, can we get hot chocolate before we go home? Please? Baby, we need to save... There's a cafe across the street, Hyunwoo said. Both of them jumped. Naomi's eyes went wide. Mr. Kang, what are you doing here? I had business nearby. The lie came easily. I was about to get coffee. Join me. Oh, we couldn't... Please. Zuri looked up at him with those bright eyes. Mama never lets me get hot chocolate. It's Christmas Eve. Hyunwoo found himself crouching to the child's level, something he never did. Then we definitely need hot chocolate. What's Christmas without it? Zuri beamed. See, Mama, he gets it. Naomi looked torn between gratitude and suspicion. Mr. Kang, you've already done so much. It's coffee. And hot chocolate. His gaze held hers. Nothing more. After a long moment, she nodded. The cafe was warm and festive, decorated with garland and twinkling lights. They claimed a corner table. Zuri bounced in her seat, chattering about school and Christmas and her favorite reindeer named Rudolph. Hyunwoo ordered hot chocolate for Zuri, coffee for himself and Naomi, and found himself actually listening to the child's stream of consciousness storytelling. And then, Mrs. Rodriguez said we're going to learn about Korea after break. That's where you're from, right? Mama told me. Do you know Taekwondo? My friend Marcus takes Taekwondo, and he says, Zuri, breathe, Naomi interjected gently. Let Mr. Kang drink his coffee. It's fine. And surprisingly it was. The girl's enthusiasm was infectious in a way he hadn't experienced in years. Their drinks arrived. Zuri took a sip of hot chocolate and sighed dramatically. This is the best day ever. Something in Hyunwoo's chest tightened. What are your Christmas plans? The question escaped before he could stop it. Naomi's smile was soft. Nothing fancy. Dinner at home. Watch Christmas movies. Open presents in the morning. Mama got me a bike, Zuri announced, then clapped her hand over her mouth. Oops, that was supposed to be a surprise. You're getting cold now, Naomi teased, kissing her daughter's forehead. The easy affection between them was foreign and fascinating. Hyunwoo couldn't remember the last time someone had touched him with such casual love. What about you, Mr. Kang? Naomi asked. Big plans? No. The word came out flat. I'll be working. Zuri's face scrunched in confusion. On Christmas? But that's sad. Don't you have family? Zuri. Naomi's face flushed. That's not polite. It's fine. Hyunwoo interrupted, though the child's innocent question had found its mark. No, no family nearby. Zuri studied him with the unnerving perception children sometimes possessed. Then she announced, "You should come to our house for Christmas." "Zuri? What?" "He's lonely, Mama. Nobody should be lonely on Christmas." The girl turned those bright eyes on him. "We don't have a big house or anything, and dinner's just chicken 'cause turkey's too expensive. But we have lots of love. Right, Mama?" Naomi looked mortified. "Mr. Kang, I am so sorry. She doesn't understand. I would like that." The words shocked all three of them. Naomi's mouth fell open. "What? If the invitation is genuine, I would like to join you for Christmas." Hyunwoo met Zuri's delighted gaze, then her mother's stunned one. "If that's acceptable." "Yes!" Zuri pumped her fist. "Mama, he's coming! This is going to be the best Christmas ever!" Naomi still looked dazed. Are you serious?" Was he? Hyunwoo had built an empire on calculated decisions. This was impulse, madness, completely unlike him. "Yes," he said quietly, "I'm serious." Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing Chicago. Hyunwoo stood outside the 3-story walk-up in South Shore, expensive wine and an absurdly large gift bag in hand, questioning every decision that had led him here. He'd faced down rival gang leaders without hesitation, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals with ice in his veins, but climbing these worn steps to a stranger's apartment made his heart race. Before he could second-guess himself further, the door flew open. "You came!" Zuri threw herself at his legs with zero self-preservation instinct. "Mama! Mama, he's here!" Hyunwoo froze, unsure how to respond to the small human attached to his knees. Slowly, awkwardly, he patted her head. Naomi appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and a red sweater, hair in twisted curls that framed her face. She looked younger, softer, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or designer clothes. "I'm so sorry." Zuri let the man breathe. She gently extracted her daughter. "Please, come in. And I have to say, I half expected you to back out." "I don't break my word." Hyunwoo stepped inside, immediately struck by the contrast. The apartment was tiny, living room, kitchen, and a hallway that probably led to 2 small bedrooms. But it was warm, clean, decorated with obvious care. A small artificial tree sat in the corner, covered in homemade ornaments and dollar store tinsel. The scent of cooking chicken and spices filled the air. It was nothing like his penthouse, with its cold minimalism and expensive art. It felt like home. "This is for you," he offered Naomi the wine, "and this is for Zuri." The little girl gasped at the enormous bag. "For me? Really? Really?" She tore into it with gleeful abandon, pulling out a brand-new bicycle helmet, knee pads, and a stuffed tiger nearly as big as she was. "Mama, look, it's a tiger, like Mr. Kang's tattoo." Naomi's eyes widened. "Mr. Kang, this is too much. Call me Hyunwoo." He shrugged off his coat. "And it's Christmas." "Hyun. I can't pronounce that." Naomi bit her lip. "Hyunwoo." He said it slowly. Hyun like Hun, but with a Y sound. Woo like woohoo. "Hyunwoo," she repeated carefully. The way his name sounded in her voice did something strange to his pulse. "I'm Naomi, but you probably knew that." "I did." Their eyes held for a moment too long. "Can I call you Mr. Tiger?" Zuri interrupted, hugging her new stuffed animal. "Cause of your tattoo?" Hyunwoo blinked. "I suppose?" "Yes. Mama, can Mr. Tiger help with dinner? Please." "Zuri, he's a guest. I can help." The offer surprised him, as much as it clearly surprised Naomi. "If you need it." She studied him, wariness mixing with curiosity. "Have you ever cooked before?" "I can follow instructions." Famous last words. But she smiled. "Okay, come on." The kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people. Hyunwoo found himself hyper-aware of every accidental brush of shoulders, every time Naomi reached past him for a utensil. She smelled like cocoa butter and something floral. "So you really don't have family here?" she asked, stirring gravy. "No. My mother passed away 3 years ago." "My sister." He paused. "We don't speak." "I'm sorry." Genuine sympathy softened her features. "That must be lonely." "It is what it is." He focused on peeling potatoes, something he vaguely remembered his mother teaching him decades ago. "You said Zuri's father died 4 years ago. Car accident." Naomi's voice stayed steady, but pain flickered in her eyes. "Marcus was a good man, worked construction, never made much money, but he loved us fiercely." "I'm sorry. Life happens." She managed a sad smile. "We survive." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Zuri provided constant background entertainment, playing with her toys and singing Christmas carols off-key. "Can I ask you something?" Naomi's voice dropped. "Why did you really come? I mean, a man like you could be anywhere right now. Fancy parties, important people. Instead, you're in my tiny kitchen making mashed potatoes." Hyunwoo considered lying, offering some smooth explanation. Instead, he told the truth. "Because your daughter was right. Nobody should be alone on Christmas, and I've been alone for a very long time." Naomi's expression softened. "Well, you're not alone today." Something in his chest cracked open. Dinner was simple but delicious. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, store-bought rolls. They ate at the small table, Zuri chattering between bites about school and her friends and everything she wanted to be when she grew up. Hyunwoo couldn't remember the last time he'd sat at a table with people who weren't business associates, where conversation flowed without ulterior motives, where laughter came easily. "Mr. Tiger, do you have kids?" Zuri asked suddenly. "No." "Why not?" "Zuri." Naomi shot her daughter a look. "What?" "I'm just asking." Hyunwoo surprised himself by answering honestly. "I never thought I'd be a good father. My work is complicated." "What do you do?" "I own businesses, real estate, restaurants." "Oh," Zuri considered this. "Well, I think you'd be a good dad. You're nice." If she only knew. Hyunwoo had blood on his hands, had ordered things that would give this sweet child nightmares. He was the monster parents warned their children about, but when Zuri smiled at him with such innocent trust, he wanted to be the person she thought he was. After dinner, they watched Christmas movies on Naomi's small TV. Zuri insisted Hyunwoo sit between her and her mother on the couch. She curled against his side, treating him like an oversized teddy bear, and he found himself frozen by the casual affection. Halfway through the second movie, Zuri fell asleep. "I should take her to bed," Naomi whispered. "I can carry her." Before Naomi could protest, Hyunwoo carefully lifted the sleeping child. She weighed nothing, felt impossibly fragile in his arms. He followed Naomi to the small bedroom decorated with butterflies and stars. As he laid Zuri in her bed, she stirred. "Mr. Tiger, yes? Will you come back? For New Year's?" Hyunwoo glanced at Naomi, who looked equally surprised. "Would you like me to?" "Uh-huh. You're part of our family now." The words hit him like a physical blow. "Then I'll come back," he promised softly. Zuri smiled and drifted back to sleep. In the living room, Naomi poured them both wine. They sat on the couch, comfortable silence settling between them. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for today, for being so patient with Zuri, for—" she gestured helplessly. "Everything. Thank you for inviting me." Hyunwoo meant it. "This was the best Christmas I've had in 20 years. Naomi's eyes searched his face. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone colder, more distant. The boss who walks through the restaurant like we're furniture." She smiled slightly. "But you peeled potatoes in my kitchen and let my daughter call you Mr. Tiger. Your daughter is very persuasive." "She is." Naomi's voice softened. "She sees the good in everyone, even when maybe she shouldn't." "Is there good in me?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Naomi held his gaze. "I think so. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't." They talked until midnight, about everything and nothing. Her childhood in Chicago, his journey from Seoul, her dreams of going back to school, his complicated relationship with the empire he'd built. She told him about Marcus, her voice warm with remembered love. He told her about his mother, the shame he carried for not being there when she died. When Hyunwoo finally stood to leave, Naomi walked him to the door. "Same time next week?" he asked. "For New Year's? Are you serious? I don't joke about holiday plans." She laughed, the sound doing dangerous things to his equilibrium. "Then yes, same time." He was halfway down the stairs when she called his name. "Hyunwoo?" He turned. Zuri was right. "You're not alone anymore." Those words followed him all the way home. New Year's Eve arrived with bitter cold and unexpected complications. Hyunwoo had spent the week in a dangerous state of distraction. Business associates noticed. Daejung openly questioned whether his boss had lost his mind. "You're going to a party?" Daejung repeated, incredulous. "You? The man who calls New Year's amateur hour?" "It's not a party." Hyunwoo signed documents without reading them. Another first. "It's dinner." "With who?" "None of your business," he almost said. Instead, "friends." The word felt foreign, true. His second-in-command's eyes narrowed. "Friends. You don't have friends." "I do now." He left before more questions could come. The gift shop on Michigan Avenue was obscenely expensive. Hyunwoo barely noticed the prices as he selected items. An art set for Zuri, cashmere scarf for Naomi, ingredients for Korean food he planned to cook for them. The saleswoman rang him up with practiced efficiency. Lucky family. They're not my... He stopped. What were they? Not family. Not yet. Maybe never. But not nothing anymore. Yes. Lucky. He was loading bags into his car when his phone rang. Unknown number. Yes? Mr. Kang? Naomi's voice tight with fear. I'm so sorry to call. I didn't know who else. There's a man outside my building. He's been there for an hour, watching. And Hyunwoo's blood went cold. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone. I'm coming. He made the drive in 12 minutes, traffic laws becoming suggestions. The black SUV outside Naomi's building was exactly what he'd feared. Amateur muscle. Probably debt collectors or small-time dealers who thought a woman alone was easy prey. They learned otherwise. Hyunwoo approached with the lazy confidence of a predator who'd already won. 3 men stood by the SUV, smoking and laughing. They noticed him approaching and straightened. Wrong neighborhood, pretty boy, the largest one sneered. Keep walking. Hyunwoo smiled. It wasn't pleasant. You're parked outside my friend's building. I'd like to know why. Your friend, the man spat. That bitch owes... He didn't finish the sentence. Hyunwoo moved faster than any of them expected, his taekwondo training making the fight brutally one-sided. 30 seconds later, all 3 were on the ground, groaning. Hyunwoo crouched beside the leader, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Listen carefully, Naomi Parker. She's under my protection now. Mine. Spread the word. Anyone who bothers her, looks at her wrong, breathes near her building, they answer to Hyunwoo Kang, understood? Recognition flashed in the man's eyes. Terror followed. Kang, holy shit, we didn't know. Now you do. Leave. Don't come back. They scrambled into their SUV and fled. Hyunwoo took a moment to compose himself before heading upstairs. When Naomi opened the door, her relief was palpable. Thank God. Are you okay? I saw from the window. Did they hurt you? I'm fine. He stepped inside, noting how Zuri peeked from behind her mother. They won't bother you again. Who were they? Nobody important. They made a mistake. Naomi studied him with new wariness. You're more than just a restaurant owner, aren't you? Hyunwoo could have lied. Should have. Instead, yes. Are you dangerous? Very. She should have been terrified, should have told him to leave. Instead, she asked quietly, Are you dangerous to us? Never. The word came out fierce. I would never hurt you or Zuri. I swear on everything I have. Long silence. Then Naomi nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? I believe you. She managed a shaky smile. Come on. Dinner's almost ready, and Zuri's been asking when you'd get here every 5 minutes. Just like that. She accepted him. Danger and all, dinner was Korean food this time. Hyunwoo had brought ingredients and cooked bulgogi, kimchi fried rice and japchae. Zuri wrinkled her nose at the kimchi but loved everything else. This is so good, she declared through a mouthful of beef. Mr. Tiger, you should cook for us all the time. Zuri, don't talk with your mouth full. But Naomi smiled. Though she's right. This is amazing. My mother's recipes. Hyunwoo felt the familiar ache. She made sure I could cook before I left Korea. Said a man who couldn't feed himself wasn't really a man. Smart woman. She was. After dinner, they taught him to play Uno. Zuri delighted in beating him repeatedly. When she went to brush her teeth, Naomi and Hyunwoo found themselves alone again. Can I ask you something? She curled into the corner of the couch, wine glass in hand. Those men tonight, what did they want? Money. They thought you were vulnerable. Easy target. And now they don't? Now they know you're protected. By you. Yes. Naomi absorbed this. I don't need a savior, Hyunwoo. I know. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. He met her gaze directly. But everyone needs backup sometimes, even the strong. She smiled slightly. Is that what you are, my backup? If you'll let me be. And what do you get out of this arrangement? Good question. What did he get? Time with a woman who saw him as human instead of monster? A child who hugged him without fear? Dinners that felt like family? Everything he'd been missing. Company, he said simply. Warmth. Something real in a life that's mostly pretend. Naomi's expression softened. You're lonely. Profoundly. So am I. Her admission was quiet. It's been 4 years since Marcus died. 4 years of being strong for Zuri, keeping it together, pretending I'm okay. And I am okay. Most days, but sometimes, she trailed off. Sometimes it's exhausting being strong alone, Hyunwoo finished. Yes. Relief flickered in her eyes. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence, watching snow fall outside the window. Why us? Naomi asked suddenly. You could have anyone, go anywhere. Why spend your time in my tiny apartment eating chicken and playing Uno? Hyunwoo considered his words carefully. In my world, everything is transaction. Money for loyalty, fear for respect. People want what I can give them, not who I am. But Zuri, he smiled slightly. She invited me to Christmas because she thought I was lonely, not because of who I am or what I have, just because she's kind. She is. Takes after her father that way. And you invited me because, Naomi's gaze was steady, because I think underneath all that danger and control, you're someone who deserves kindness too. Something in Hyunwoo's chest cracked wider. When Zuri returned, they counted down to midnight together. At 0, Zuri threw confetti she'd made from construction paper and shrieked with glee. Happy New Year! She hugged her mother first, then launched herself at Hyunwoo with the same enthusiasm. He caught her automatically now, no longer frozen by the contact. This is gonna be the best year ever, Zuri declared. 'Cause you're here. Over the child's head, Hyunwoo met Naomi's eyes. She mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded, unable to speak past the emotion lodging in his throat. When he left that night, Naomi walked him to the door again. "Same time next week?" she asked with a teasing smile. "I don't have an excuse this time. No holiday." "You don't need an excuse. You're welcome here any time." The word settled into his bones. "Any time?" he repeated. "Any time." Hyunwoo made a decision that would change everything. "Tomorrow. I'll bring groceries. Cook dinner properly." "You don't have to." "I want to." Naomi studied him, then slowly smiled. "Okay, tomorrow." He was halfway down the stairs when she called his name again. He turned. "Hyunwoo, I'm glad you spent Christmas alone. Otherwise you wouldn't have been free to spend it with us." He carried those words home like treasure. The next 3 weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Hyunwoo appeared at Naomi's door most evenings after Zuri's school. Sometimes he brought groceries and cooked Korean food. Sometimes Naomi cooked soul food, and he learned about her heritage, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie that made him close his eyes in pleasure. He taught Zuri basic taekwondo forms in the tiny living room. She called it tiger training and took it very seriously. Naomi watched from the kitchen, warmth in her eyes that made his heart stutter. He took them to museums, the aquarium, places Naomi couldn't afford on her salary. She protested initially, until he pointed out that Zuri's joy was payment enough. After that, she let him spoil them both, though she always insisted on contributing something. Packed lunches, home desserts, her time and attention. His associates noticed the change. Dae-jung confronted him after a meeting. "You're distracted, soft. The men are talking. Let them talk. This woman is none of your concern." Hyunwoo's tone could have frozen fire. "My personal life doesn't affect business. Everything affects business, you know that." He did. But for the first time in 20 years, Hyunwoo didn't care. Then reality crashed back in. It was a Tuesday evening. Hyunwoo had picked up Zuri from school, another new routine Naomi had hesitantly agreed to after he'd offered. The little girl chatted about her day while he drove, and he found himself genuinely interested in 7-year-old social dynamics. They were 2 blocks from home when the black sedan appeared. Hyunwoo's instincts screamed. He accelerated, but too late. The sedan cut them off. 2 more vehicles boxed them in. "Mr. Tiger." Zuri's voice went small. "What's happening?" "Everything's fine." He kept his voice calm, even as his hand moved to the gun in his glove compartment. "Stay low, yeah? Like we practiced in tiger training." She nodded and scrunched down in her seat. Men emerged from the vehicles. 6 of them, armed. Hyunwoo recognized the leader. Park Min-seok, head of a rival Korean organization. Ambitious, stupid, dangerous combination. Min-seok approached the driver's window with a smile that promised violence. Kang Hyunwoo, finally showing weakness. "Say what you came to say." Hyunwoo's hand remained on his gun. "You've been neglecting business, spending time with—" Min-seok's gaze slid to Zuri with ugly intent. Distractions. Every protective instinct Hyunwoo possessed roared to life. "Careful what you look at." "Is that a threat?" Min-seok laughed. "You're outnumbered, unarmed." Hyunwoo moved. 1 shot through the window, not to kill but to wound. Min-seok went down screaming. The other men scrambled for weapons, but Hyunwoo was already out of the car, using it as a shield, returning fire with lethal precision. The entire confrontation lasted 90 seconds. When silence fell, 3 men were wounded. The rest had fled, and Hyunwoo's car had bullet holes in the door. Zuri sat exactly where he'd left her, eyes squeezed shut, hands over her ears. Horror crashed over him. What had he done? He'd brought violence to this innocent child, proven he was exactly the monster he'd always been. "Zuri," his voice shook. "It's over. You're safe." She opened her eyes slowly. Tears streamed down her face. For the first time since he'd met her, she looked at him with fear. Something inside Hyunwoo shattered. He drove her home in silence. When they arrived, Naomi took one look at Zuri's face and went pale. "What happened?" "We got scared," Zuri whispered. "There were bad men and guns and Mr. Tiger." She started crying harder. Naomi pulled her daughter close, then looked at Hyunwoo with an expression he couldn't read. "Inside. Now." He followed them up. Once Zuri was settled in her room with her tablet and headphones, Naomi rounded on him. "What happened?" Hyunwoo told her everything. The ambush, the shooting, how close it had come to disaster. "You brought that violence near my daughter." Naomi's voice was dangerously quiet. "You put her in danger." "I know. I'm sorry. I should never have—" "Sorry?" Anger flashed in her eyes. "Sorry doesn't undo what she saw, what she'll have nightmares about. She's 7 years old, Hyunwoo." "I know." The words exploded from him. "You think I don't know? I've been trying to keep you separate from that world. I thought I could—" He stopped, helpless. "I was wrong. This is who I am. This is my life, and I have no right to contaminate yours with it." Naomi stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you were right to be afraid of me. I'm dangerous, and everyone around me gets hurt eventually." His throat tightened. "I should go and I shouldn't come back." "That's it?" Her voice rose. "You're just going to walk away?" "It's better—" "For who?" "You." She stepped closer, fury and fear warring in her expression. "You don't get to decide what's better for me, for us. Not after becoming part of our lives, not after Zuri started calling you family. She shouldn't. I'm not—" "You are." Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. "You're here every day. You cook dinner and help with homework and make her laugh. You're the first person besides her father who she's trusted like this. And you want to just disappear because your world followed you once? I put her in danger. Life is dangerous. Marcus died driving to work. Should I have never let him leave the house?" Naomi swiped at her tears. "I'm terrified, okay? I'm absolutely terrified. But I'm more terrified of the hole you'll leave if you go." Hyunwoo couldn't breathe. "Naomi, do you care about us? About Zuri? About—" She hesitated. "About me. More than I should." The admission tore from him. "More than is safe. Then don't run." She grabbed his hand. "Stay, fight for this, protect us the way I know you can. But don't you dare walk away because you're scared." "I'm not scared." "You are. You're terrified of caring about someone and losing them. But guess what? That's life. That's love. And it's worth the risk." "Love." The word hung between them like a confession. "I don't know how to do this," Hyunwoo said quietly. "I don't know how to be normal, safe, good. Neither do I. I'm making this up as I go." Naomi's smile was watery. "But we can figure it out together. If you stay. What if I can't keep you safe? What if you can?" She squeezed his hand. "You're not alone in this anymore, Hyunwoo. Let me help. Let us be your reason to be better." He looked at their joined hands. Thought about Christmas dinner and Korean lessons and Zuri's laugh. Thought about how empty his penthouse felt now. How 3 weeks had transformed his entire existence. "I'll increase security," he said slowly, "for you and Zuri, discreetly. And I'll handle Min-seok properly this time. No more threats. Okay. And if there's ever real danger, we'll face it together." Naomi stepped closer. That's what people do when they care about each other. When they care about each other. Not quite love, not yet, but close enough to make his heart race. "I need to talk to Zuri," he said. "Apologize. Make sure she understands. Tomorrow. Let her sleep tonight. But yes, you need to talk to her." Hyunwoo nodded. Then, because he couldn't help himself, he reached up and tucked a curl behind Naomi's ear. The gesture was tender, intimate. She didn't pull away. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself." When he left that night, it wasn't with the finality he'd intended. It was with a promise to return, to be better, to be worthy of the family he'd accidentally found. But first he had a rival to eliminate. The next 48 hours were brutal. Hyunwoo dismantled Min-seok's operation with surgical precision. He called in favors, deployed resources, and made it abundantly clear what happened to anyone who threatened his people. By the time he was finished, Min-seok was fleeing Chicago with nothing but the clothes on his back. Message sent, message received. But victory felt hollow when he thought about Zuri's tear-stained face. He showed up at Naomi's apartment on Thursday evening, exhausted and uncertain. She let him in without a word, and he found Zuri doing homework at the kitchen table. The little girl looked up. Fear and confusion flickered in her eyes. "Hey," Hyunwoo said softly, crouching to her level. "Can we talk?" Zuri glanced at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay." He sat across from her, searching for the right words. "How did you explain violence to a 7-year-old? How did you apologize for shattering her innocence?" "I'm sorry," he started, "for what happened, for scaring you. That should never have happened." "Are you a bad guy?" Zuri's question was direct, devastating. "Sometimes. In my work I do things that aren't good. I make decisions that hurt people, and that's on me." He held her gaze. "But I would never hurt you or your mama. You're the best things in my life. And I'm going to make sure nothing like that ever happens again." "How?" "By being smarter, better, by making sure the people who work for me understand that you're off limits, completely untouchable." Zuri considered this with the seriousness only children possessed. "Mama says everybody makes mistakes, and what matters is if you try to be better. Your mama is very wise. Are you going to try to be better?" "Yes." The promise felt like an oath. "For you, for your mama, for myself." Zuri studied him for a long moment. Then she slipped off her chair and hugged him. "Okay, I forgive you, Mr. Tiger." Relief crashed over Hyunwoo so intensely he had to close his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. That night, after Zuri went to bed, Hyunwoo and Naomi sat on the couch with wine and comfortable silence. "She's more resilient than I give her credit for," Naomi said quietly. "She's amazing. Like her mother." Naomi smiled. "Flattery will get you everywhere." "Good to know." They sat in silence for a while, watching snow fall outside the window. Then Naomi asked the question that had been hanging between them for weeks. "What is this? Us?" Hyunwoo's heart stuttered. "What do you want it to be?" "I asked first." "Fair enough." He set down his wineglass and turned to face her fully. "I care about you. Both of you. More than I've cared about anything in 20 years. When I'm here, I feel like I'm not just the monster I've made myself into. Like maybe I can be someone better." "You are someone better." Naomi's voice was fierce. "That monster. He wouldn't have spent Christmas with a stranger's family, wouldn't cook dinner and help with homework and learn to braid a little girl's hair. You taught me that. Both of you. We reminded you. But it was always there." She reached for his hand. "I care about you too. And that terrifies me, because I swore after Marcus that I couldn't. I know. But you're not Marcus, and this isn't that. And maybe—" She took a shaky breath. "Maybe it's time to stop being scared." Hyunwoo's thumb traced patterns on her palm. "What if I hurt you? What if you don't?" The question hung between them. Then, slowly, carefully, Hyunwoo leaned in, giving her time to pull away, to change her mind. She didn't. Their lips met softly, tentatively, then with growing certainty. Naomi tasted like wine and hope and everything he'd been missing. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Wow," Naomi whispered. "Wow," he agreed. They kissed again, and again, until they were tangled together on the couch, hands exploring, breath mingling, years of loneliness dissolving in shared warmth. When things threatened to escalate further, Naomi pulled back. "Zuri's down the hall." "Right. Yes. Of course." She smiled at his obvious frustration. "Rain check?" "Definitely." They settled back into comfortable cuddling instead. Naomi's head on his chest, his arms around her. It felt ridiculously domestic, ridiculously right. "Stay," she murmured. "Tonight. Just stay." "On the couch?" "On the couch." He did. And when morning came, Zuri found them tangled together under a blanket, still fully clothed but clearly together in a new way. "Does this mean Mr. Tiger is your boyfriend now, Mama?" she asked with a grin. Naomi blushed. "Would that be okay with you?" "Yes!" Zuri bounced with excitement. "I've been waiting forever." Hyunwoo laughed, actual genuine laughter. "Forever? It's been 2 months. That's forever when you're 7. She threw herself into their cuddle pile. "Best family ever." Family. The word settled into Hyunwoo's heart like coming home. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Hyunwoo began restructuring his operations, transitioning to more legitimate enterprises. It wouldn't happen overnight, couldn't happen overnight without starting a war, but he was working toward it. Toward being someone Zuri could be proud of. He moved Naomi and Zuri to a better apartment. Not his penthouse, she'd refused, wanting to maintain some independence, but a safe building in a good neighborhood with actual security. He enrolled Zuri in a better school, set up a college fund that would guarantee her future. Naomi protested each step, insisting she didn't need his money. but she accepted when he framed it differently. Let me give you the safety I never had. The opportunities my mother wanted for me, please. She couldn't argue with that. His organization adjusted. Some men left, unable to accept his weakness. Most stayed, recognizing that Hyun-woo was still the most dangerous man in Chicago, just with something to fight for now. Dae-jung grudgingly admitted the change might not be entirely terrible. You're happier, his second-in-command observed one day, less likely to shoot someone for breathing wrong. I was never that bad. You absolutely were. Hyun-woo couldn't argue. It was late February when everything solidified. They were at Naomi's new apartment. Bigger, brighter, safer. Zuri was showing Hyun-woo her latest art project while Naomi cooked dinner. Mr. Tiger, Zuri asked suddenly, are you gonna marry Mama? Hyun-woo choked on his water. Naomi dropped a spoon. Zuri! Naomi's face was scarlet. You can't just... Why not? Daddy used to say if you love someone, you should marry them. And Mr. Tiger loves you. I can tell. Out of the mouths of babes. Hyun-woo met Naomi's eyes across the room, saw his own feelings reflected there. Love, hope, fear, possibility. You're right, he said quietly. I do love your mama. Naomi's breath caught. And I love you, he continued, looking at Zuri. Both of you changed my life, made me want to be better, made me believe I could be. So you'll marry her, Zuri pressed. Zuri, baby, go wash your hands for dinner, Naomi said, voice unsteady. But, now please. Zuri huffed but obeyed. Once she was gone, Naomi turned to Hyun-woo. Did you mean that? Every word. He crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. I love you, Naomi. I'm in love with you. And if you'll have me, not now, not today, but someday, I want to marry you. Want to be Zuri's father officially. Want to build the family I never thought I'd have. Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. You already are her father, in every way that matters. And you? What do you want? You. This. All of it. She kissed him softly. I love you too, and I'm not scared anymore. Liar, you're terrified. Okay, yes, but I'm doing it anyway. He laughed and kissed her again, deeper this time, promising forever. When Zuri returned, she took one look at them and squealed, I knew it. Can I be the flower girl? Absolutely, Hyun-woo said, lifting her up. Best flower girl in Chicago. In the whole world. In the whole world, he agreed. That night, after Zuri was asleep and Naomi was tucked against his side, Hyun-woo thought about Christmas Eve, about sitting alone in his penthouse, certain he'd die alone, about a little girl who'd said he shouldn't be lonely on Christmas. What are you thinking about? Naomi murmured. How one invitation changed everything. She smiled against his chest. Best decision I never made. Zuri decided all on her own. Thank God for precocious 7-year-olds. Amen to that. They fell asleep tangled together, 3 hearts beating as one. Family. Christmas Eve. Hyun-woo stood in the kitchen of their new house, not his old penthouse, but a real home in a safe neighborhood with a yard where Zuri could play, and smiled at the organized chaos around him. Zuri was decorating cookies with her grandmother. Yes, grandmother. Naomi's mother had flown in from Atlanta, and after initial wariness about her daughter dating a reformed criminal, she'd accepted Hyun-woo into the family, mostly because Zuri adored him, and Naomi was happier than she'd been in years. His own sister had also reconciled with him, slowly, cautiously. She was coming tomorrow with her family, building bridges. Naomi moved through the kitchen with practiced ease, directing the holiday meal preparation. She wore an engagement ring now, simple, elegant, exactly her style. They'd marry in spring, small ceremony, just family and close friends. Baby, don't eat all the frosting, Naomi called to Zuri. But Grandma said I could. Grandma's a bad influence. Naomi's mother laughed. That child needs spoiling, let her have frosting. Hyun-woo caught Naomi around the waist as she passed, pulling her in for a kiss. She melted against him. Happy, he murmured. Ridiculously. She touched his face. You? More than I ever thought possible. Gross, Zuri shouted. Stop kissing. We have cookies to finish. They broke apart, laughing. Later that evening, sitting around the table with food and family and laughter, Hyun-woo thought about last Christmas, about being alone, about thinking he'd always be alone, about a little girl who'd changed everything with one simple invitation. Zuri caught his eye and grinned. Best Christmas ever, Mr. Tiger. He looked around at his family, chosen, earned, loved, and his heart was full. Best Christmas ever, he agreed, and he meant it.